Hello, everyone. I'd like to go through and read the Late Republic. So this is chapter 10, section 3, the Late Republic. I'm going to try to break it up into two pieces. This first half of the video will be a little bit longer than the second half because it's about 2/3, and then we'll do 1/3. So the Late Republic. If you were there, you are a farmer in Italy during the Roman Republic. You are proud to be a Roman citizen. But times are hard. Rich landowners are buying farmland, and many farmers like you have lost their jobs. Some are moving to the city, but you heard there aren't many jobs there either. You've also heard that a famous general is raising an army to fight in Asia. That seems very far away, but it would mean good pay. What might convince you to join the army? Hmm. For me to join the army, I would want to make sure that I was pretty safe. So I would want to make sure not only am I getting paid well, but I'm also getting all the equipment that I need in order to do my job so that they're going to give me armor and arrows and pikes and all of the things that I need in order to do my job and so that I can stay safe and keep my other soldiers safe as well. So good pay and all the right equipment. That's what it would take me to convince to join the army. What about you? You can send me a message and let me know your answer. Building background. The Roman army played a vital or important role in the expansion of the Republic. Roman soldiers were well trained and defended many of the city's enemies. As they did so, the Romans took over new lands. As the army conquered these new lands, traders moved in, seeking new products and markets that could make them rich. So when they say that traders moved in, it means people that are part of the buying and selling or merchants, not traders as in people who are trying to do away with the republic. Okay, so make sure that when you hear the word traders and here you know it means a person who's buying and selling or a merchant, somebody who owns a store. The growth of territory and trade. After about 400 BC, the Roman Republic grew quickly, both geographically and economically. Within 200 years, the Roman army had conquered nearly all of Italy. Meanwhile, Roman traders or merchants had begun to ship goods back and forth around the Mediterranean in search of new products and wealth. The growth of territory. Roman territory grew mainly in response to outside threats. In about 387 BC, a people called the Gauls attacked Rome and took over the city. The Romans had to give the Gauls a huge amount of gold to leave the city. So, Gaul is present day France. So, people of France came in and attacked the city of Rome. And the Romans are like, "Would you please leave?" And the Gauls are like, "No." And the Romans are like, "No, really, could you leave?" And the Gauls are like, maybe if you give us some money. So give us enough money and then we'll leave. And so the Romans did. They were like, "Here's a bunch of money and go away." And so the Gauls went, "Ha, it worked." So this kind of led to some problems for Rome, though. This also helps answer question 1B in the section review questions. Inspired by Gaul's victory, so we're in the second paragraph, inspired by Gaul's victory, many of Rome's neighboring cities decided to attack. So everybody else got the idea and went, you could make some money. All we have to do is attack Rome, take over their city, and then they'll pay us to leave. However, with some difficulty, the Romans fought off these attacks. As Rome's attackers were defeated, the Romans took over their land. As you can see on the map, the Romans soon controlled all of the Italian peninsula except for the far northern Italy. So Rome's neighbors thought it was a good idea to attack them. However, it backfired because Rome won and then took their land and then went, ha. So if we look at this map, we can see that when Rome first started as a republic, so as it went from having its Etruscan kings and went, we don't want any kings anymore, we're going to elect our own officials and our own government leaders, they had just this little spot in yellow. So this is how much land the Romans controlled in 509 BC. After about 200, 300 years, so by 270 BC, so 300 years later, 250 years later, they owned all the purple. So all of these people attacked, and Rome just kept spreading out further and further and further and further and further. They did kind of get stopped by the mountains up here, right? So this is the very top of the Alpinese Mountains. So they didn't get quite all the way across the peninsula, but really, really close to it. This next paragraph is going to help answer question 1A, which is a definition. So definition just means find the highlighted yellow words, and that's going to be your answer. One reason for the Roman success was the organization of its army. Soldiers were organized in legions, or groups of up to 6,000 soldiers. Each legion was divided into centuries, or groups of 100 soldiers. This organization allowed for the army to be very flexible. It could fight as a large group or as several small ones. This flexibility allowed the Romans to defeat most of their enemies. So question 1A asks, what is a legion? A legion is a group of up to 6,000 soldiers. You'll notice that they're divided into centuries. Centur means 100, so that's why it's 100 soldiers. Though some centuries had between 80 and 100 soldiers, depending on what resource you use. Farming and trade. This section, farming and trade, is going to help answer question 1C. Before Rome conquered Italy, most Romans were farmers. As the Republic grew, many people left their farms for Rome, or the city of Rome. In place of these small farms, wealthy Romans built large farms in the countryside. These farms were worked by slaves who grew 1 or 2 crops. The owners of the farms didn't usually live on them. Instead, they stayed in Rome or in other cities that let others run the farms for them. Roman trade also expanded as the Republic grew. Rome's farmers couldn't grow enough food to support the city's increasing population. So merchants brought food from other parts of the Mediterranean. These merchants also brought metal goods and slaves to Rome. To pay for these goods, the Romans made coins out of copper, silver, and other metals. Roman coins began to appear in markets all around the Mediterranean. So again, as the Republic got bigger and bigger, more people started living in the city of Rome. However, the immediate farmers right around Rome in this area couldn't grow enough food to feed all the hungry people who were living in the city. So as they expanded out, they made bigger and bigger farms, and then they had to have more and more merchants trade and travel to other parts of the Mediterranean to get enough resources to support the city of Rome. Reading check. Identifying cause and effect. Why did the Romans conquer their neighbors? Well, they conquered their neighbors because their neighbors attacked them. Their neighbors said, haha, we are going to attack you, and then you'll pay us money to leave. And so they had to defend themselves. And as they defended themselves, they won the wars. And so then they took over the land of the people that were trying to attack them. Rome grows beyond Italy. As Rome's power grew, other countries came to see Romans as a threat to their own power and declared war on them. In the end, the Romans defeated their opponents, and Rome gained territories throughout the Mediterranean. So they keep growing because people keep attacking them, but their army is so good because they have these legionnaires, and they're really, really well trained. And so they keep getting further and further and winning more and more things. And as they become more powerful, more people attack them because they're scared. Kind of what's happening in Rome. So one of the wars that you need to know about, actually it's a series of wars, it's 3, is the Punic Wars. The fiercest of the wars Rome fought were the Punic Wars, a series of wars against Carthage in a city in northern Africa. This is going to help answer questions 2A and 2B in this section, so the Punic Wars. So the Punic Wars is a series of wars against Carthage. Carthage is a city in northern Africa. So here's Carthage, here's Rome. By the way, this is Sicily, okay? The word Punic means Phoenician in Latin. As you learned earlier in this book, the Phoenicians were an ancient civilization that had built the city on Carthage. Now, you might remember the Phoenicians when we talked about the Mesopotamians. The Phoenicians were the people who traded with the Mesopotamians, and the Phoenicians is where we got our alphabet from. Rome and Carthage went to war 3 times between 264 and 146 BC. The wars began when Carthage sent its armies to Sicily, an island just southwest of Italy. In response, the Romans also sent an army out to the island. Before long, war broke out between the two of them. After almost 20 years of fighting, the Romans forced their enemies out and took control of Sicily. So again, this is Sicily. So Carthage sent in the First Punic War, Carthage sent its army to Sicily. Rome sent its army to Sicily. They fought here for 20 years. And then eventually the Carthaginians, or the people from Carthage, had to go back to northern Africa. Some of you might remember Sicily as being important in ancient Greece. Sicily is what also helped end the Peloponnesian War. So when Sparta was fighting Athens, Athens decided, we will stop this truce and we'll go invade Sicily and take over Sicily and continue to grow. However, the Sicilian army defeated the Athenian navy that then allowed Sparta to come in and conquer Athens, end the Peloponnesian War, and take over control of Greece. So this poor island of Sicily is constantly having people fight over it. Now in Rome, we have Carthage is sending its army, Rome is sending its army, and we have the First Punic War. The second time the Punic War happened. In 218 BC, Carthage tried to attack Rome itself. An army led by the brilliant general Hannibal set out for Rome. Although he forced the Romans right to the edge of defeat, Hannibal was never able to capture Rome itself. In the meantime, the Romans sent an army to attack Carthage. Hannibal rushed home to defend his city, but his troops were defeated at Zama in a battle illustrated below. So if we take a look at what happened here, we have Hannibal, which if we get to this page, here's Hannibal on top of one of his war elephants, which were very, very scary to the Romans. So Hannibal on top of a war elephant, he started and he came in and he started some fighting over here in what is today Spain. Okay, so he controlled this area of Spain and he left Spain. He went through France, past the Gauls, came over the top of the Alps, which is this mountain range here, and then came across the river, the Tiber River, the Rubicon River, and came all the way down to Rome and was about to take the city of Rome. But right before he could do that, Scipio, who had his army in Carthage, whose army was on Sicily or on the island of Sicily, left Sicily, and then he's this blue line here, and he came around this way to come in from the backside to come and attack Carthage. So when Scipio left to come to get to Carthage, Hannibal went, I have to go defend my city. And so he left Rome. He just in a hurry went all the way back. But before they actually got to the city of Carthage, they had this big giant battle called the Battle of Zama. And that happened in 202 BC. So it says here, during the Second Punic War, so remember the first one, we have Carthage attacks Rome, Rome sends its army, and they fight here in the island of Sicily. This is the second time these two countries fight each other. During the Second Punic War, Hannibal invades Italy, and as you can see on the map, but Rome's leader's army sent an army under the general Scipio to attack Carthage itself, forcing Hannibal to return to and defend his city. The two generals met at Zama, where Scipio defeated Hannibal's army with the last great battle of the Second Punic War. Okay, so this also ended the Second Punic War. So we have the Romans had the advantage because they had a cavalry, which helped them with their battle. Cavalry means soldiers on horses. Some Roman soldiers blew trumpets and yelled to distract the war elephants. And then we have Hannibal's forces included about 80 war elephants. And the Romans, they ended up leaving spaces in between their soldiers so that the elephants wouldn't trample them and do less damage. Otherwise, normally they're very, very close together when they fight. So this was terrifying because if you think about the fact where elephants live in Asia and elephants live in Africa. Elephants do not live in Europe and elephants do not live in Italy. So the average Italian soldier would never have seen an elephant before. Imagine how terrifying it would be to have an elephant storming at you, running full speed with people throwing sharp, pointy things at you in the process. It'd be terrifying for the Romans, but somehow they won. So here's a little biography about Hannibal. It says, many historians consider Hannibal to be one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. From an early age, he hated Rome. In 218 BC, he began the Second Punic War by attacking one of Rome's allies in Spain. After the war, he became the leader of Carthage, but later he was forced by the Romans to flee the city. He went to Asia and joined with the other king fighting the Romans there. That king was defeated, and Hannibal killed himself so that he wouldn't become Rome's prisoner. So that's a little bit about Hannibal. All right, let's look at the Third Punic War, right? So the Second Punic War started in 218 BC. It ended in 202 BC. So it lasted 16 years. And it ended with the Battle of Zama in North Africa, right near Carthage. By the 140s BC, many senators had grown alarmed that Carthage was growing powerful again. They convinced Rome's councils to declare war on Carthage, and once again the Romans sent an army to Africa to destroy Carthage. After this victory, the Romans burned the city, killed most of its people, and sold the rest of the people into slavery. They also took control of North Africa. So to review the three Punic Wars, the First Punic War, Carthage attacked Rome, Rome won. Second Punic War, Carthage attacked Rome, Rome won. Third Punic War, Rome attacked Carthage and destroyed them and won. And that ended Carthage and the Punic Wars. Later expansion. We're almost done. We're just going to stop here at the reading check. During the Punic Wars, Rome took control of Sicily, Corsica, Spain, and North Africa. As a result, Rome controlled most of the Western Mediterranean region. In the years that followed, Roman legions marched north and east as well. By the 120s, Rome conquered the southern part of Gaul. By that time, Rome had also conquered Greece and parts of Asia. This last paragraph is going to help answer the last part of question number 2. Although the Romans took over Greece, they were greatly changed by the experience. We would normally expect the victor to change the conquered country. Instead, the Romans adopted ideas about literature, art, philosophy, religion, and education from the Greeks. Reading check summarizing. How did the Romans gain territory? Well, they took control of areas from the Punic Wars, and from there, they spread north and east, conquering Gaul, Greece, and parts of Asia. They also took over land by conquering their neighbors every time their neighbors declared war on them, and they won. So that's going to wrap up the first part of this chapter. It's actually 2/3, so thank you for listening. You got through all of question 1 and all of question 2, so that's question 1A, 1B, 1C, question 2A, 2B, and 2C, and the next video we'll talk about questions 3 and 4.